Theresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, is having health problems and needs to change how she eats. Theresa Caputo, the famous star of Long Island medium, has been having gastrointestinal difficulties lately. The doctor told him to follow a strict diet when he went to the doctor for stomach pain and other physical problems. Theresa's digestive problem is now critical, and the doctor has told her that she can't consume any oily, spicy, or fatty foods, especially meat and fish. The doctor clearly stated, "Your body is not able to handle these foods at the moment. You should eat more vegetables. Your health depends on lightly cooked and easily digestible food." But Theresa said in a disappointed voice, "I can't eat these vegetables or vegetarian foods. I don't like them at all." The doctor sternly told her, "Theresa, your condition is much worse than before. There is no time for choice. You must accept this change if you want to stay healthy." This is a difficult chapter for Theresa, but her fans are hoping that she will face this challenge with a strong spirit and recover quickly and return to her former vibrant self. Theresa Caputo sat quietly in her Long Island house. She was typically full of enthusiasm, but she had been sick for weeks with nausea, tiredness, and constant stomach discomfort. The woman who is known for her electric presence, sky-high blonde hair, and strange spiritual readings could hardly get through the day without curling up in pain. Her fans had noticed the change. She was making fewer appearances, reading shorter books, and the glitter in her eyes was dimming. After a lot of tests and talks, her gastroenterologist finally told her the truth. "Theresa," he said seriously, putting her reports on the desk, "your intestines are very inflamed. You have a chronic condition that is getting worse because of your diet. You can't eat oily, spicy, or fatty foods anymore, especially meat and fish. You have to stop eating them completely." Theresa blinked in shock. "No meat? No fish? No fried squid? Doc, you're killing me here." The doctor leaned closer. "No, Theresa. This meal is what's making you sick. Your body can't handle it anymore. You should eat a lot of vegetables and plants, and your cuisine should be light, steamed, and bland." "Your gut is screaming for peace," she said, scratching her temples. "You don't get it. I don't like vegetables. Kale? What about tofu? Zucchini? Then get ready to spend more time in pain, and maybe even in a hospital bed," he said. "You don't have the luxury of preferences anymore." For the next 3 days, Theresa was quite angry. There was a fight at every meal. She poked at plain quinoa bowls and drank green drinks with a sneer. Victoria, her daughter, tried everything to make her mother feel better: vegan lasagna, avocado smoothies, and cauliflower wings. But nothing worked. But one night, something unexpected happened. Theresa had dozed off while watching old footage of her Long Island medium readings. In her dream, she was in a bright white kitchen with spirits all around her. Lena, her late grandma, came to visit and smiled while wearing her famous apron. Lena replied in her heavy Italian accent, "Theresa, you're being stubborn." Theresa looked bewildered. "What do you mean, Grandma? You assume food is just for your mouth. But food is like medicine. Your spirit knows what your body needs. You have a special talent for helping people heal. But now it's time for you to heal." Theresa started to cry. "But I don't know how." Lena answered, "You do. But you need help from both worlds." When Theresa woke up, her pillow was wet with tears, and the room smelt like oregano, which was the smell of her grandmother's kitchen. She saw it as a sign. She called a holistic nutritionist that morning. Not just any expert, but one who believed in energy, healing, and the link between the body and spirit. They worked together to make a healing meal plan that included herbal teas, spiritually grounding food rituals, and eating in a way that felt right to them. Theresa was surprised to find tranquility in the process. She saw every meal as a holy ritual. She even started saying prayers over her food, like she would for a spirit before a reading. Months moved into weeks. The ache started to go away. She got her vitality back. Her skin shone. What about her hair? More than ever. And her spiritual senses become even stronger. Theresa came back to TV later, this time with a new show called Healing with the Medium. She not only brought people together with their loved ones, but they also made therapeutic meals together, mixing food and spirit. During one live session, she looked directly into the camera and said, "I thought I couldn't live without the foods I loved. But I've learned something deeper. Sometimes, to heal the soul, you have to start with the stomach. And sometimes, the spirits don't just speak through words, they speak through spinach." Her fans erupted with love. They admired her strength, her transformation, and her willingness to be vulnerable. Theresa Caputo had not only healed herself, she had inspired thousands to listen to their bodies, follow the signs, and trust that even in crisis, spirit is never far. And from that day on, a little steamed broccoli never felt so magical. But it was a crisp fall night on Long Island. Theresa Caputo was getting ready for a very special tape of Long Island Medium. This one would be different from all the others she had done before. The audience wouldn't know who the spirit was until the very end. As Theresa went out in her trademark huge hair, sparkling shoes, and dazzling energy, the lights in the studio faded. She stood in the middle of the platform and held her palms out. "Okay, spirit, I can feel you already." She began in that familiar blend of charm and seriousness. "This energy is huge, like worldwide. And they keep showing me a microphone, a lot of flashing lights, and crowds screaming. This person was loved. Loved." The crowd went quiet. "Look, they're showing me a white glove and a dance move." "No, wait, it's a moonwalk." People gasped all around the room. "I don't want to say anything yet, but this spirit is electric. They say they changed music forever. And now they're showing me a Neverland. Oh boy." A woman in the front row held her chest. Theresa came over. "Do you feel connected to this spirit, sweetheart? He's showing me a chimpanzee named Bubbles." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Since I was 10, I've liked Michael Jackson. I saw him in concert in 1992, and he transformed my life." Theresa nodded slowly. "He says thank you, and he knows about a picture you keep in your wallet. Is that true?" The woman fished through her purse and took out an old picture of herself in a throng with Michael Jackson playing in the background. The crowd gasped again. "He is glad that you never stopped protecting him. He knows that the world judged him. But he adds, she knew my heart." The woman started to cry. Theresa looked back at the crowd. "But wait, there's more. Another spirit is coming in. The same energy, music, impact. This one is all rock and roll. He's bouncing his hips and saying, 'Thank you very much.'" The audience laughed and clapped loudly. "Now I know you can guess this one," Theresa remarked with a chuckle. "He has the slick hair, the white jumpsuit, and he just threw a cape on me." A young man in the second row stood up. "That's Elvis," my granny often remarked. "He was watching over us." She pointed at him. "He came to see her grandma, and she's with him now. He wants to thank her for the lights she used to light every August." The man stopped. He muttered, "She did that every year on the anniversary of his death." "Yes, he knows," Theresa responded with a loving smile. "And he's going to sing for her tonight." Theresa stopped again, all of a sudden. "All right, everyone. One more. This spirit has just crossed over. It's sad. A brilliant soul stolen too soon. This one is showing me a pink outfit, a strong voice, and a message to her fans. I'm at peace now. Don't cry for me." The crowd was utterly quiet. "She's singing a song about never giving up. Tell my fans I felt their love," she says. A girl in the back murmured, "That's Ariana?" Theresa shook her head a little. "No, sweetie. This is Selena Quintanilla." The girl started crying. Selena wants everyone to know that her music is still alive. She sees how her legacy lives on in you. You dance in your room to her songs, and she loves your voice. The girl was now shaking. "I want to be a singer like her," she remarked in a gentle voice. She held Theresa's hand. "Then sing, sweetheart. That's her gift to you." The gathering offered a standing ovation not only to Theresa, but also to the spirits who had gone through. Theresa smiled at the camera right before the credits rolled. The stars we lose can often become the brightest spirits that watch over us. If you listen closely, you might be able to hear them. But on a clear autumn afternoon on Long Island, Bob Harper, a well-known fitness trainer and heart attack survivor, walked into the small studio where Theresa Caputo was filming a special episode of Long Island Medium. He looked calm and collected, with his trademark smile on his face, but deep down, he had questions he had never asked out loud about his late father, who died when Bob was just a teenager. Theresa Caputo, dressed in her signature leopard print and with her hair piled high, greeted Bob with a smile. She didn't know much about him other than what she could sense. Her gift always spoke louder than Google. As they sat down across from each other, cameras rolling, Theresa tilted her head slightly, and her expression changed. "Oh boy," she exclaimed, putting a palm over her heart. "I'm feeling a lot of male energy here." Very fatherly. He had been waiting for this. Bob stiffened a little. "Is it my dad?" he questioned in a low voice. Theresa nodded slowly. He just moved forward. She laughed softly and said, "And let me tell you, he is loud." "Tell my boy I'm proud," he murmured. "He did it. He did what I couldn't do." Bob blinked to keep the tears from coming up his throat. "He keeps showing me a wrench," Theresa said. "Like tools?" "Did he use his hands?" Bob nodded, and his voice broke. "He was a mechanic. He always had oil beneath his nails." Theresa closed her eyes and listened. "He says you were his pride." "He didn't say it very often, though. He says, 'I watched every episode of The Biggest Loser from up here.' He's joking when he says, 'You got my stubbornness, kid.'" Bob laughed, as tears streamed down his face. "That sounds just like him." Theresa stretched out and touched his hand. "He also says he was there that day, when your heart stopped beating." Bob stopped moving. "He says he kept you. He wouldn't let you leave." "Not yet," he said. "You still have work to do." The studio went quiet in shock. Even the crew, who were used to Theresa's readings, were moved by what was happening. Bob wiped his eyes. "I didn't tell anyone anything, but I kept dreaming about my dad when I was in the hospital, standing at the end of the bed, just watching." Theresa smiled softly. "That wasn't a dream. That was a visit." Bob sat in silence for a long time, thinking about what he had just heard. For years, he had been carrying the weight of unanswered questions about his father, his approval, his love, and his pride. And now, in the most unexpected way, all of that was answered. When the reading was over, Bob rose up and hugged Theresa tightly. "Thank you," he said softly. "You have no idea how much this means to me." "Oh, honey," he knew, Theresa remarked with a wink as she backed away. "That's why he told me to say it." But it was a bright, early afternoon at the Long Island studio, and the crew buzzed with excitement. Fashion icon, TV personality, and larger-than-life star Carson Kressley had arrived for a private reading with Theresa Caputo, the Long Island medium. Known for his wit, sparkle, and love for the fabulous, Carson greeted the staff with charm and laughter. But beneath his radiant smile, he carried a quiet curiosity. Who might come through from the other side? Theresa Caputo came into the room with her usual lively attitude. Her hair was freshly teased, her nails were immaculate, and she was wearing a fierce leopard print jacket. She hugged Carson and exclaimed, "Honey, the moment you walked in, I felt a rush of spirit energy. This is going to be wild." Carson smiled and said, "Darling, I live for wild." The session started out as planned, with some light-hearted jokes, a few affirmations, and some emotional touches. Theresa connected Carson with a beloved aunt who died of cancer and an old dance teacher who always told him, "Don't let them dim your shine." Carson cried because the messages were so true and full of love. But then the room's air shifted. Theresa tilted her head and murmured, "Okay, I don't even know how to explain this. This isn't your usual spirit." Carson was interested and said, "What do you mean?" "There's an animal here." Carson blinked. "You mean like a spirit animal?" No, Theresa exclaimed, her eyes wide. "Like a real animal." "I see a llama?" Carson gasped. "Wait a second. Are you serious? I had a llama named Senor Sassypants on my farm. He died last year." Theresa laughed out loud. "I thought I was going crazy. He's here, and he has a lot to say." Carson laughed so hard he fell over. "That's him. Oh my God. You're talking to Senor Sassy Pants? What is he saying? Theresa closed her eyes and said, He's being really rude. He says he loved you, but he didn't like that silly hat you made him wear in the holiday pictures. Carson laughed so hard that he yelled. He hated that Santa hat, but it had glitter. He says he had dignity, glitter or not, Theresa remarked, sounding almost sorry. Then her face softened. He also told me that you were there with him when he died, stroking his neck. He says thank you for loving him like he was a king. He felt safe, and he still watches over your farm. There was a moment of silence in the room. Carson wiped a tear from his eye. I never thought an animal would come through. But that llama, he meant so much to me. He was there for me when things were hard, you know? That's why he came, Theresa said. Spirit doesn't care if it's a person or an animal. If there's love, they show up. And honey, Senor Sassy Pants loves you. Still. Carson laughed again, this time with tears in his eyes. I can't wait to tell my friends that I had a llama spirit reading. Only with Theresa Caputo. At the end of the session, Theresa smiled brightly and said, Carson, you have a lot of people watching over you. But don't forget that sometimes the sassiest protectors have 4 legs and a lot of attitude. But it was a rainy Thursday morning in New York City when Theresa Caputo, the famous Long Island medium, was a guest on the Meredith Vieira show. The audience was made up of skeptics, believers, and people who were grieving and hoping to feel a connection to the people they had lost. Theresa walked onto the stage with her usual charisma, but that day, something in the air felt different. Heavier. Charged. When Meredith introduced Theresa, the camera cut to a woman in the second row who was nervously holding a locket around her neck. Her name was Danielle, and she was a schoolteacher from Ohio. She had written to the show months before, begging for a chance to talk to her fiancé Tyler, who had died in a car accident just weeks before their wedding. So, Theresa, Meredith replied to Theresa, before the show even started, you said a young male spirit came through? Theresa nodded, her face suddenly serious. Yes. He showed me a white car that hit the driver's side. He keeps saying, tell her I'm sorry for the delay, but I never left her. Danielle gasped and cried. That's Tyler. Oh my God. He was driving my car that day, a white Honda Civic. He was getting our wedding bands. Theresa's voice got softer. He says you need to stop blaming yourself. He's showing me that he made a last-minute decision. It wasn't your fault. He's also showing me daisies. Did you have daisies in your bouquet? Danielle cried. Yes. Daisies were his favorite. I picked them out for him. Theresa smiled softly and said, he knows. He says he saw you put one on his coffin, and it meant everything to him. The audience was quiet. Even Meredith was trying not to cry. But the session was still going on. Theresa suddenly looked to the left side of the audience. Her energy changed. She held her chest and said, I can't breathe. I feel like I'm drowning. She turned her head quickly. There's a young girl here, about 14 or 15. She died suddenly. She says, tell my brother I still sing to him at night. A man in his 30s who was seated in the back corner gasped and grabbed his chest. My sister Julia, she drowned 2 years ago while swimming at summer camp. I thought I was going crazy. I hear humming in my room every night. Theresa looked him in the eye and said, you aren't crazy. That's her. She says she hums the lullaby your mum used to sing to both of you. The man broke down, shaking his head in bewilderment. I haven't told anyone that, not even my wife. Theresa put her palm on her heart and said, that's proof. She's with you. Spirits don't tell us what we want to hear. They tell us what we need to know. The room went quiet again, and the audience felt a flood of emotion rush over them. It was raw, real, and haunting. Meredith and Theresa sat down together after the show. You do this every day, but it still seems to affect you. Because grief is universal, Theresa said. These aren't just messages, they're healing. I'm just a phone line. Theresa stopped as she was walking towards the door. She turned around and muttered to no one in particular, I hope today gave them peace. A camera that was still rolling caught the moment. A light breeze blew through the closed studio, the locket around Danielle's neck opened on its own, and the air smelt like daisies. But Theresa Caputo, the famous Long Island medium, walked into the studio of Live with Kelly and Michael on a clear autumn morning in New York City. She was wearing her trademark stilettos, teased blonde hair that reached the sky, and a black leather jacket over a sparkly blouse. She was ready to bring her gift to daytime TV once more. As the cameras rolled, the crowd roared enthusiastically. Kelly Ripa, who is typically effervescent and bright, hugged Theresa tightly, while Michael Strahan, who was much taller than both women, smiled with inquiry and doubt. Kelly replied, "Theresa, it's always electric when you're here. Last time, you made half our staff cry in the hallway." Theresa chuckled and waved her perfectly manicured hands. "What can I say? Spirit has a way of showing up when people least expect it." Theresa said that she never knows who will come through during a reading, but that morning felt different. Her hands began to shake a little. "Oh boy," she exclaimed all of a sudden, shutting her eyes. "Someone is already coming through." Michael's eyebrows flew up. "Wait, is it happening right now?" Theresa nodded. "I'm sorry, I know we were going to talk about my book, but there's a strong male energy here, and he's very persistent. He says he died suddenly from a heart problem and is showing me a football and a watch. He says, 'Tell Mikey, I never missed a game.'" The room was quiet. Michael's smile faded, and his voice became softer. "My dad died 5 years ago. He always wore this old watch and never missed a game I played, not in high school or the NFL." Theresa gently opened her eyes and smiled at Michael. "He says he's been with you every time you've had to make a tough choice, especially this past year. He wants you to know that you're not alone." Kelly was shocked when she saw Michael's eyes fill with tears. She grabbed for his hand. Michael replied softly, "I didn't expect this. I didn't even believe it, but that was him." As the audience wiped their eyes, Theresa softly said, "Spirit doesn't need belief. It just needs openness." But it wasn't done. Theresa quickly turned to the people in the crowd. "I'm getting the name Margaret or Maggie. She's waving a red scarf. Who here lost a Margaret or Maggie?" A woman in the third row started to cry and held her chest. "My mum, Maggie. She always wore a red scarf. She died last Christmas." Theresa nodded slowly. "She's here. She's holding a pie. She says, 'Tell my baby girl I heard her sing to me that night.'" The woman cried. "I sang her favorite song while she was dying. I didn't think she could hear me." "She heard every note," Theresa said quietly. The studio had become something between a chat show and a holy reunion by the end of the piece. People in the audience hugged, Kelly wiped her eyes with a tissue, and even the cameramen looked like they were going to cry. Theresa smiled quietly and looked at Kelly and Michael as the credits rolled. "This isn't about me. It's about healing. Sometimes a morning talk show is a way in." A producer came up to Theresa backstage while she was packing up her crystals and notes. "We just got a lot of calls. People are saying this was the most emotional episode we've ever shown." Theresa grinned knowingly. "That's spirit for you. Always ready to show up when hearts are open." As she left the studio and stepped onto the busy New York sidewalk, she looked up at the sky and said, "Thank you." Because occasionally a medium needs a tiny sign that she is precisely where she needs to be. Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to my channel. I'm Mina, and I hope you're having a great day. If you liked the video, please subscribe to the channel.